most parents might feel a bit reluctant into bringing these hardcore, critical uh, elements of faith to someone as young as an elementary school child. But at the same time, I read in Anthony Flou's biography, There Is a God, he mentioned that the belief that a child would have by the age of 13 is something that they would end up dying with. So for a parent or for a pastor or a youth pastor who is reluctant to bring the core elements of Christian faith to someone of that age by saying that, well, they're too young to know it, um, don't you say that there is a danger of not equipping them at that young age, given that so much of secular content is easily available for someone that young?
I think it's a huge mistake for parents,
Mm.
youth pastors, teachers not to intentionally have faith conversations and teach younger generations. They are building their faith at 6, 8, 10 years old. They are developing a kind of theology. They're learning to think about
Mm.
God,
Mm.
learning to think about the world. So of course it has
Right.
to be age appropriate. It has to be in ways that a kid can understand at that stage. But actually, a lot of theology, we hear about kids leaving the faith after high school. In my
Mm.
estimation, a lot of them have left the faith before they even get to high school, but they're still
Mm.
surrounded by a community that maybe embraces them and believes it, so they just go with the flow. So
Mm.
there's practical things we can do with younger kids. Like one thing I do with my kids is I tell them all the time, I'm like, hey, you can ask your dad anything. When I tuck my son in, I'll say, you can ask your dad anything. And sometimes he asks me, even though he's 7, really good theological questions because I get him
Mm.
thinking, because he's already wrestling with who's God and how does this fit into the world. And so it starts much earlier than we typically think, but we just have to do it in a way that makes sense to younger kids.
And that's why the younger kids often ponder upon questions that we may not expect them to ponder upon. Norman Geisler, in one of his books, he says how his grandchild came up to and asked him, "Who created God?" And the danger with the modern world is that it's so much of information is so easily available. All that they have to do is go on the internet and type "Who created God," and bam, they're seeing this huge flurry of atheistic and secular content pop right in front of their eyes. And it's so easy for them to get distracted by the wrong arguments and the often lacking arguments, and believe that there has to be a creator for God, or there is something so innately lacking in the Christian faith. So with so much to address for the parents to their children, especially given from their elementary age, elementary school to high school, and I think and I believe that this is something that has been covered in depth in the book as well. How can parents step by step start off this interaction, something that can be practically applicable for all age group of the children?
Well, that's a huge question for all age groups step by step. That's a massive curriculum. And part
Maybe just narrowing it down, for an elementary school student, for an elementary school child, how do the parent engage in this conversation just for them?
uh, so a couple things they can do. First thing is look for a good church if that's possible within, so there's a community of people that are interacting with and teaching and passing on the faith. Second, here's one practical thing you can do. Deuteronomy 6:4, it talks about, the Lord our God is one. Talk about these things when the kids lay down, when they get up, when they walk along the road, when they lie down. In other words, look for practical ways to have conversations with kids about faith issues. That's what is important to do. So I don't force it with my kids. I don't sit my kids down and preach to them, but I am
Hmm.
regularly looking for opportunities to engage them in spiritual conversation. And what I do during the day is if I see an interesting article, I'll store it away and then I'll just share it with my kids at meal time. We'll carve out meals as best we can regularly together. And I go, hey, this happened in the media. What do you guys think? Hey, I was reading this in, my Bible reading this morning. I learned something really interesting. What do you guys think? And I'm just looking
Right.
to regularly have conversations with them. That's one thing. Second, also stuff comes up if we're watching a TV show together. if something happens in the culture, I'll jump on it and maybe we'll have a brief conversation for a minute. But the point is, one effective thing all parents can do, and probably a lot can do better, is not so much add this entire new curriculum, but look for the opportunities that are naturally there in the rhythm of our day and just use those as an opportunity to spiritually engage our kids. And when we do so, it's amazing how much progress we can make to help them learn to think Christianly.